This is Dialed In with Derek Simmons and Rachel Thorne. Let's talk compliance.
Okay, so welcome to Dialed In. Today is fun. We've got Kevin DeMeritt in the house talking voice AI.
Yeah, this one's stacked. We're going from his background in voice AI and how he even got into this space to that messy speed to lead follower problem.
Exactly. Then we'll dig into why compliance has to be the first priority, how TCPA risk actually shows up on your balance sheet, you know what I mean?
And we'll hit trust in voice AI, plus what it looks like when compliance is baked into the architecture instead of bolted on at the end.
So anyway, let's jump in with Kevin's origin story and how he first got pulled into voice AI. We want to hear from you. Submit questions via the web form in the description or give us a call at 747-946-7602 and leave your question. Don't be shy. Our AI assistant makes it super easy. To start, what first drew you to this space?
Well, I was running a precious metals company that I owned for about 35 years, and we were drawing in about 8 to 12,000 leads a month from form fills online. And our salespeople, which we had about 125 salespeople at the time, were just getting behind in speed to lead and then the follow-up. So I started looking into voice AI with another company about 5 years ago and decided that I thought I could do it a little bit better with TCPA compliance and the security, getting the voice to sound the way that I wanted it to sound, and really be a sales and marketing help as opposed to just something built by coders. So we started that about 4 years ago. Had a couple of years of development, and then we launched about a year and a half ago with 2X. So really proud of what we built.
That makes sense. When you were building it, what had to come first? Compliance, security, or the sales experience?
Well, compliance had to come first. Compliance, security, because that gives you a lot of legal exposure. So that's always the first conversation we hear from almost anyone out there, because it's not just software sitting in the background. You are making live phone calls, you're handling customer conversations, and you're touching real customer data. So if you're not compliant with TCPA, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, and if you're not managing opt-outs correctly, if you're not controlling when that call happens at specific times that are regulated by states and the Fed, then your company's exposed. And if you're not storing transcriptions with the outbound call number and the numerous other required data points that are mandated for 5 years, the hold period, you're just out of compliance. So at that point, it's no longer a technology issue. It becomes a business risk. And at $500 to $1,500 fines per call, it could put a lot of businesses out of business. So you kind of have to start with security and compliance first.
That makes the stakes clear, Kevin. What does trust actually mean in voice AI for you?
Most companies focus on, really, to me, how human the AI sounds before they ask whether the system is actually safe to deploy at scale. And the real execution question is simple, in my opinion. Can the business trust this platform first? And then what are all the cool bells and whistles second, right? The voice and some texting and all those kinds of things. And so quite frankly, most voices to me are starting to sound the same. It's starting to become a commodity. The millions spent to make the platform compliant, that's the rarity. And if customers do not trust it, or the regulators do not trust it, or leadership doesn't trust it, none of the other metrics really matter. So trust to me is predictability. How the system behaves correctly each time. Does it follow the compliance rules every time? It respects the day of time restrictions, the do not call list, the opt-outs, the data handling requirements. That's the foundation. So at 2X, we built compliance into the architecture from the beginning, the TCPA compliance, the HIPAA compliance, the SOC 2 Type 2 security, the real-time spam remediation, because if you're scaling conversations, you cannot leave compliance to risk.
That's helpful. Once trust is in place, what becomes the next priority?
I think that the operational usability, can the business actually run the system at scale reliably? I think that's the next big hurdle that a lot of companies start bumping into, because there's a difference between sending you a demo and it sounding good and then having it make hundreds of thousands of phone calls. In 1 month, we made 800,000 plus phone calls for Bosley Hair. Your system has to perform at scale if you want to be able to do something like that.
What usually breaks first when a company goes from demo mode to real scale?
Uh, Well, compliance usually breaks down because you need to do that at scale. Every call that goes out, we need to make sure it's going out at the right time. If you're putting it through the do not call list, then you have to run, through that in real time. The voice has to be able to, or your server has to be able to um, make sure that it can make 800, a million calls per company, each and every month. And so usually the systems start to fail. And if they start failing for one company, they usually start failing across the board. So, you could be a smaller company and have an architecture with some large company on there that's eating up a lot of the time, making phone calls, leaving voice messages, sending texts, things like that. And even if you're on a different server, the main server that's running all of it, if it breaks down, then you break down because somebody else is making a lot of phone calls. So you have to have the architecture and the backup and the load balance all correct to get the system to make sure that it does what it's supposed to do.
What does the right architecture look like for that?
Well, first, you need extremely large servers, and you need the load balance in different parts of the country, so that if one area goes down, that all of your customers don't go down, that you can load balance it over to some other location. And usually you need somebody like Amazon or Google Cloud um, to make sure that you can put all of that together and have it scale correctly over time. I mean, you continue to add people if you're a successful business, and so that architecture has to be there to make sure that you can scale with it, not only from a compliance and a security standpoint, but also from a performance and operational standpoint.
That sounds like the foundation. Where do companies usually underestimate the infrastructure work most?
I just how complicated it is to get your training for the AI to do what you would like it to do consistently and at scale would be number one. Um, a big hurdle is getting the TCPA, to be as compliant as humanly possible, and following all of the rules from the state level and the Fed level, and trying to keep up with all of that so that the platform is compliant. That's a big hurdle, and making sure that security over and over and over and audited continues to be there, so that your data coming into the 2X system, or any system out there really, um, is protected. You just don't want your client's information out, obviously, on some privacy security situation where there was a break-in on the system. So, you know, I think the training of the AI, making sure that it conforms to the way your business runs, and your knowledge base and your objections and closing and everything that goes into that is part of that training, and then compliance and security after that.
What should leaders get right first when they deploy voice AI?
Um, well, it's going to sound like a broken record, but it's compliance and security. You have to get that right first. So they have to make sure that that's built into the platform. After that, it's making sure that your CRM and your tools are talking in real time back and forth to either 2X solutions or whatever platform you're working with, making sure that those tools are working so that there's real time. I mean, a perfect example would be, we're talking to a customer and they ask us to opt them out. We need to opt them out immediately. That's the rule. So we would opt them out and then send that information back to the CRM immediately after that phone call so that they could opt them out so that one of their representatives doesn't accidentally call and you have a a regulatory concern or some class action attorney coming after you. So I think that's what you have to get right first, is just making sure that the architecture is correct for your system. And that's just basically APIs and webhooks, just making sure that some technology person is there to kind of, hook it up and run it. It's not that difficult, but somebody has to be able to do that and make sure that it's correct.
What do teams usually miss when they connect the AI to their CRM?
I don't know if they really miss too much, quite frankly, Jordan. Once we're a very white glove, so maybe it gets missed if it's a DIY, voice agent that a lot of people try to plug in and do themselves. But for us, we do a lot of testing, so there just isn't a lot missed, I think, when you have the team there making sure that you're integrated correctly, or we jump in and help out with that integration. It's not, like I said, it's not complicated. You just need to make sure that it's done correctly and make sure that there's a little bit of testing done so that information is flowing back and forth and you can see it and confirm it.
What is the one thing leaders should remember before deploying voice AI?
That the bottom line with voice AI, in my opinion, is we are replacing the repetitive human tasks that should be done by AI, which can do it better, faster, and more consistently. And if you look at it that way, then there's an ROI sitting in two different places. One, the efficiency of getting a lead in, getting speed to lead, and a minute or two after that lead is submitted, how many more leads are you going to contact, which turns into real business at the end, which is your ROI. And then how many people can you redeploy from repetitive tasks over to high level thinking tasks or closing tasks to make sure that you are generating that revenue. So I think that's what we like to sit down with businesses and make sure that they understand. There's two parts of this that we're going to try to help solve for you, and then your business can scale much faster with systems that are repetitive done by AI, voice AI, the voice AI calling, and leave the higher level tasks of closing and decision making and answering high level questions to individuals, because people waste a lot of time leaving voice messages and trying to dial people, and 80% of the time you're leaving a voice message. It's a complete waste of time for people. But getting that person on the phone, maybe qualifying them a little bit or creating an appointment, it's just a complete waste of time for people when you have systems like this. And so we want to make sure that leaders understand that and what are our KPIs so that we're aligned, and making sure that the system works, and getting an ROI that they require.
Kevin, what is the one takeaway leaders should remember?
I think that when we see most of the companies that we work with, they don't actually have a lead problem. They have a conversational handling problem. We've seen companies re-engage, 10 and 5-year-old dormant leads and generate over $200,000 in additional revenue from databases that they thought were effectively sitting idle. I mean, nobody was going to call that. We've also seen AI-driven workflows generate $60,000 and $80,000 per month in additional profitability simply through better operational consistency, the follow-up, the speed to lead, and all the things that I think sales managers, CEOs, and marketing people see on a daily basis. People create relationships and systems create operational consistency. I think what AI does best is free teams from, like I said, this repetitive communication work so they can focus on high value conversations. And that's where scalability really starts to happen. So we turn your repetitive phone tasks into a predictable, scalable revenue system. So in my opinion, tomorrow's winning companies will realize they need to stop wasting human talent on these low-level phone tasks that AI does faster, better, more consistently, so that they can free up their human talent for these high-level decisions and closing more business.
Derek, Kevin really flipped the usual priority list on his head. For him, number 1 was compliance, number 2 was security, and only then do you earn the right to chase sexy features.
Yeah, and he was blunt about it. If you don't design for compliance from day one, it's exactly what breaks the moment you move from demo to real value.
Exactly. His point was, in a pilot, you can babysit the system. At scale, you need guardrails that work when no one's watching.
Reflective. I also liked how he defined trust in voice AI. Not just it works, but it behaves the same way at 10 calls or 10,000, and it never surprises your legal team.
So, for leaders, his implied checklist was 1. Lock down compliance, 2. Prove reliability at scale, 3. Then optimize experience.
And don't underestimate the plumbing, telephony, logging, monitoring. That's where people get burned.
Stay with us, we'll wrap this up in the outro next. So, if Kevin's story of building voice AI from that lead follow-up headache to compliance-first tech hit home, remember this: trust starts with consent and proof, not hype.
Right. And if this opened your eyes to those TCPA and business risk gaps, subscribe, drop a quick review, and share this with your legal team.
Yeah, and hit 2x.ai to see how compliance-first calling works. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.